I've learned not to expect too much from family. Not warmth, not fairness, not even a seat at the table literally. My name's Nathan. I'm 31 and I'm a doctor living in Seattle. I don't keep close contact with my family anymore. Not out of resentment, just self-preservation. Still, when the invitation to my younger brother's wedding arrived, I paused. No note, no call, just an envelope, like a tax document. But a foolish part of me thought, maybe this time will be different. I flew across the country to Boston, wearing a tailored suit I hadn't taken out of the garment bag since my last medical conference. The venue was stunning, a boutique hotel with chandeliers like frozen waterfalls and waiters who moved like they were gliding. I arrived early, always early. Old habit. I approached the reception table, expecting nothing more than a polite greeting and a table card. Instead, the hostess looked confused when I gave her my name. Nathan Carter? She repeated, skimming down her list. Then, with a too bright smile, she pointed past the ballroom. Ah, you're at table 46, just down that hallway, near the service exit. I didn't react right away. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was another Nathan Carter. Maybe the real list was inside. But no, I followed her gesture and found it. A lonely, rickety table near the staff bathrooms and coat check. Two mismatched chairs. No centerpiece. My name scribbled on a plain folded card. Nathan C. No flowers. No linen. Just a fake ficus tree and the scent of mop water. At first I just stood there, staring. A strange pressure built behind my ribs. Not anger yet, just a cold, creeping sense of confirmation. You were never really part of this family. Not in the ways that counted. I checked my phone. No messages from Dad. Not a word from Ryan. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't an oversight. This was the seating I'd been assigned, deliberately. I sat down slowly, my back to the ballroom. Laughter spilled through the double doors like a wave I wasn't allowed to ride. I looked down at the glass of lukewarm water in front of me and thought, so this is it. The role I was always meant to play. The one outside the frame. But I wasn't going to stay quiet for long. From where I sat out by the coats and industrial mop buckets, I could see slivers of the ballroom through frosted glass panels. Inside, it was glowing. Laughter bounced off the crystal chandeliers. Jazz floated in the air like expensive perfume. Every detail screamed celebration, but none of it included me. I adjusted my cufflinks, not because they needed fixing, but because it gave me something to do with my hands. My breath fogged the glass as I leaned forward, just barely catching a glimpse of him. There he was, Ryan, the golden boy, the beloved youngest, groom of the hour, grinning like a movie star in a designer tux, surrounded by his groomsmen, flanked by bridesmaids in pale blush. His bride, Melissa, a vision in something probably custom, laughed as she adjusted his boutonniere. I wasn't angry yet, not exactly. I was suspended, like a snow globe moment. Everything looked beautiful, but it wasn't mine to touch. The weirdest thing, I didn't hate Ryan. Not really. He was always the center of the house growing up. Loud, dramatic, impulsive. But he made people laugh. Made Dad proud. Made our stepmom, Linda, dote on him like he was porcelain. And me? I was the one who cleaned up after his messes, did the dishes, quietly applied to med school, while Dad bragged about Ryan's high school theater award like he'd won a Nobel. I remember once, when Ryan failed out of his first semester of college, Dad flew out to help him reset in Florida for a wellness retreat. When I graduated med school, I got a text. No punctuation. The family always acted like I didn't need anything. Like independence was something to punish. But this wedding, this was something else. No speech. No inclusion. No place card in the ballroom. I'd helped pay part of Ryan's college tuition when Dad refused. Covered his rent once. Took him to the ER when he was blackout drunk. And yet today I wasn't a brother. I was an afterthought. Just as I was trying to hold myself together, the ballroom door creaked open. A woman stepped out mid-50s, bleached blonde curls, reeking of Chanel and superiority. "Oh," she said with theatrical surprise, "you must be Nathan, Ryan's brother." Her smile curled at the edges like burned paper. I was wondering why this table was so empty. "Melissa's mom?" I asked, already knowing. "Vanessa," she replied, extending a manicured hand like royalty. I didn't take it. She gave a small, amused hum and glanced around at the table like she was inspecting a janitor's closet. "Shame they put you all the way out here." Honestly, I thought this was for the caterer's break. My chest tightened. I kept my voice calm. "Yeah, I thought it was a mistake too." "Oh, honey," she said, eyes glittering with cruelty. "Not a mistake. Melissa said they had to prioritize the people closest to Ryan. You understand, right?" I gripped the glass of water until my knuckles whitened. I understood, all right. They were building a castle, and they wanted me hidden in the dungeon. I watched Vanessa glide back into the ballroom like she hadn't just poured acid into an open wound. Her wine-colored dress shimmered in the light, her heels clicking confidently as if she owned the damn hotel. I sat in silence for a while, sipping the warm water like it could dissolve the bitterness in my throat. Spoiler, it couldn't. I stared at the sad little table in front of me. No centerpiece, no champagne, no wedding program. Just that cheap folded name card Nathan C. Like even writing out my full name had been too much of an effort. In that moment, I wasn't just sitting at a table near the bathrooms. I was sitting in every moment I'd swallowed my words for the sake of keeping the peace. The dinners where Ryan's jokes at my expense were met with laughter and backpats. The birthdays I spent alone, because no one remembered I flew back from Seattle just to be ignored. The holidays where I was told I shouldn't expect special treatment, just because I had a degree. I stood up slowly, smoothing my jacket. My chest felt heavy, not with anger, but with resolve. Something inside me had calcified. I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. The ballroom buzzed like a wasp's nest. Glasses clinked. A string quartet played something classical and forgettable. Waitstaff floated between linen-covered tables like trained birds. I stepped inside, and the shift in temperature wasn't physical. It was emotional. I no longer felt invisible. People turned when they saw me. Not out of recognition, most didn't know who I was, but because I didn't look like I belonged. Not there. Not in that space of curated perfection and performative joy. I found Ryan near the wedding cake. His arm was around Melissa, his smile all veneers and ego. Dad stood beside him, holding a whiskey like it was the trophy he never gave me. Linda hovered near the gift table, adjusting ribbons, pretending she wasn't watching everything. I walked straight toward them, stopping 2 feet in front of Ryan. I held up the name card between my index and middle fingers, like a receipt for a failed transaction. "Hey," I said calmly. "Got a minute?" Ryan blinked. Nate?" Melissa tensed. Dad frowned, confused. "You put me at a table by the bathrooms," I said. Didn't even spell out my name. Ryan glanced at the card like it had just appeared. "Oh, right. Sorry, man. Last minute changes. You know how chaotic weddings can be." "Sure," I said, my voice flat. "Real chaotic, especially when it comes to deciding who gets to be treated like family." He chuckled awkwardly. "It's not personal, but it is," I said. "You made it personal the second you decided that your college roommate's Tinder date deserved a seat closer to you than your own brother." Melissa chimed in, arms crossed. "Nathan, this is supposed to be a happy day. Don't turn it into something dramatic." I looked at her, really looked. The perfection, the practiced poise, the cold calculation behind her eyes. "Don't worry. I won't ruin your aesthetic." Dad cleared his throat. "Nathan, let's not do this here." I turned to him. "Of course not here, because if we do it here, everyone might find out that the only reason I came was to give this family one last chance to pretend I mattered." Linda stepped forward, voice trembling. "Please, Nathan, let's not." "No," I interrupted. "Let's." Let's talk about how you all smiled and waved at me like I was a distant cousin who wandered in by accident. How I've spent years being treated like a background character in a life I actually helped carry. Ryan rolled his eyes. You moved away, Nate. You made your choice. You're the one who cut ties. I moved away because I was suffocating, I snapped. Because every time I tried to be seen, I was told I was too much, too serious, too successful. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a mirror. Someone who wouldn't reflect back all the things you lacked. The air went heavy. Guests nearby slowed their chewing. Music dimmed, like it was listening too. Melissa hissed. This is pathetic. You're just bitter. I smiled. No. Bitter is what happens when someone stays silent too long. I'm past that now. And that's when I saw her again. Vanessa standing nearby with a champagne flute, trying not to look interested and failing. I walked over, nodding politely. Miss S. Vanessa, I began, my tone syrupy. Can I ask you something? Her brows lifted in amusement. Sure, dear. Did Melissa ever tell you that you shouldn't wear red because it would clash with the wedding decor? Her smile cracked. She also said she hoped you wouldn't give a speech because she didn't want to be upstaged by a middle-aged woman with a thirst for attention. Her words, not mine. Vanessa blinked. Once, twice, then narrowed her eyes. She said that? I nodded solemnly. And more. She called you a bougie liability. Gasps, laughter, whispers. Melissa's cheeks flushed a violent shade of pink. You liar! But Vanessa wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at her daughter-in-law, and she was furious. What else did she say, Nathan? Vanessa asked, voice trembling with contained fury. I leaned in. She said if you gave a toast, she'd fake a fainting spell just to cut you off. I thought that was a bit dramatic. But hey, weddings bring out the worst in people, don't they? Vanessa stormed off like a missile in heels. The fallout would be spectacular. I took a slow breath. This wasn't the end, but it was the turning point. It started slowly, like a crack in porcelain. 1 second, Vanessa was just glaring across the room. The next, she was marching. Her heels hit the polished ballroom floor like thunder. The chatter faded. The music faltered. A hush fell, curious heads turning like dominoes falling. Ryan and Melissa stood near the sweetheart table, all painted smiles and well-practiced poses. Melissa's blush lipstick had begun to smudge slightly, though she didn't know it yet. Ryan still wore the same overconfident grin I'd known since we were kids. Then, Melissa. Vanessa's voice sliced through the ballroom like a bell at a funeral. Melissa blinked, clearly thrown off by her mother-in-law's tone. What's going on? She asked, trying to sound calm. You said my dress looked cheap? Vanessa's voice wavered, but not from weakness, from rage. You said I'd ruin your wedding photos? The guest stirred. Whispers spread like spilled wine. I what? Melissa tried laughing. Who told you that? Vanessa jabbed a finger in my direction. Your brother-in-law just filled me in. Ryan's head snapped toward me. What the hell, Nate? I stayed where I was, drink in hand, gaze steady. Don't look at me like I forged those words. Maybe don't say things you're not prepared to own. Melissa looked like someone had dumped a pitcher of ice water down her spine. You're lying. But her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Vanessa stepped even closer. You're ungrateful, she hissed. I paid for the flowers, the seating, half this venue. And you think I look cheap? The room froze. Even the wait staff halted mid-step. Ryan stepped between them, arms raised like a referee. Okay, let's calm down. No, Vanessa spat. You wanted a picture-perfect day, Melissa? Congratulations. You just made the evening news for the worst bride in Boston. The groomsmen began backing away, their boutonnieres suddenly feeling very awkward. And that's when the real unraveling began. Melissa turned to Ryan, her voice shrill. You believe this? Ryan didn't answer. Her voice cracked higher. You think I'd say that about your mom? He still didn't answer. She turned to me instead. You're doing this because you're bitter. You weren't seated close to the dance floor, and you decided to ruin everything. I was seated next to a mop closet, I said quietly, not near the dance floor outside the entire celebration. Like trash. That wasn't personal, she snapped. I stared at her. You're right. It was strategic. Dad stepped in then, face pale. Enough. I turned to him. Now you speak? He hesitated. This isn't the time or place, no, I said. This is exactly the time. And the place. Linda looked torn between fleeing and fainting. She hovered behind Dad, eyes wet but distant. Then Jason, one of Ryan's old college buddies, stepped forward, phone in hand. Just FYI, he whispered, loud enough for us all to hear. At least 3 people are live streaming this right now. Melissa paled. Ryan looked around the room like it had turned on him. This is insane, Melissa muttered. We spent months planning this. Then maybe you should have planned a seat for your husband's only brother, I replied. I didn't think you cared, she yelled. You barely call. You moved across the country. Because I couldn't breathe here, I said. Because every time I came home, I was treated like an accessory no one ordered. Ryan shoved a hand through his hair. You're overreacting. I stepped closer, lowering my voice to a razor's edge. This isn't just about today. This is about every day. Every dinner where you were the star and I was a cautionary tale. Every holiday where you got a gift card and I got leftovers. Every time Dad told me tone it down so you wouldn't feel bad. Ryan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. But no words came out. I turned back to Vanessa. You were right about one thing, by the way. This dress code? It's strictly symbolic. She gave a tight, bitter laugh. And then, the final blow, Jason stepped in. Ryan, he said, you told me last week your mom was driving you nuts. You said, and I quote, if she speaks at the wedding, I'm out. So either your fiancé lied or you did. Ryan froze. All color drained from Melissa's face. Gasps erupted. Phones went up again. Melissa grabbed her veil and ripped it off, throwing it to the ground like it was choking her. I cannot believe this. Vanessa let out a dry, broken laugh. Believe it. Linda finally spoke, her voice soft. Ryan, did you really say that? I know. He stammered. But it was too late. The damage was done. People started getting up from their tables, some awkwardly drifting toward the exits, others whispering behind raised hands. The ballroom no longer felt like a celebration. It felt like a social disaster unfolding in real time. The DJ stopped the music entirely. Someone knocked over a glass, and the shatter seemed to echo off the walls. Dad stood still, jaw tight, watching me like he'd never seen me before. I'm done, I said softly. Ryan reached for me, but I stepped back. I came here thinking, maybe this family had changed, but it hasn't. It just got better at hiding the rot behind prettier flowers. Then I looked to Melissa. You're not the villain here, I said, but you married one. That was the last thing I said before I turned around and walked away. I didn't run. I didn't slam any doors, but I did pause at the gift table. Found my name on a silver-wrapped box with a black ribbon. The espresso machine Ryan once told me he wanted. $999. 3 weeks of research. One piece of my heart. I picked it up. I cradled the gift box like it was something fragile, though not in the literal sense. It wasn't the machine that felt breakable. It was what it represented. Recognition. Effort. Love, even. I'd spent 3 weeks researching espresso machines to find one that could steam milk like the Italian cafes. Ryan always bragged about during his Eurotrip phase. I remembered how he'd gone on and on about a particular model after using it at my apartment last Thanksgiving. This is exactly what Melissa would love in the mornings, he had said. And I remembered thinking, perfect. I've got your wedding gift figured out. Now, walking toward the exit of the ballroom, that same machine felt like evidence in a courtroom. A gift offered in good faith that had no place in a space where I'd been treated like a burden. Nathan, Melissa's voice rang out behind me. I didn't stop. You're really taking back your gift? She shrieked. I glanced over my shoulder. Calm. Outsiders aren't obligated to bring presents, remember? Her heels clicked rapidly behind me, her wedding dress rustling like a storm. This is so petty. You're making a fool of yourself. I turned fully now, holding the box securely in one arm. No, I said. I stopped being a fool the moment I left my name at the mercy of people who didn't value it. Then Dad stepped in front of me, palm raised, voice low. Nathan, don't do this. Don't do what? I asked. Take back something I gave in good faith after you shoved me into a hallway like I was a mistake. It was never meant to be like that, he said. Really? I snapped. Because you sure looked proud, standing up there with Ryan, while I sat next to the mop closet. Nathan, he tried again, but his voice cracked. I shook my head. It's too late, Dad. You didn't just forget me. You erased me. Linda appeared behind him, mascara smudged. She reached for my arm gently. Sweetheart, let's talk about this tomorrow. I pulled back, not harshly but firmly. Tomorrow always ends up looking like yesterday in this family. And then Ryan tried again. Nate, he said, stepping forward, face pale. Can we just rewind a second? I didn't mean for it to go this far. Didn't mean to? I laughed quietly. You meant everything, Ryan. You just didn't expect the consequences. I was under pressure, he offered. From who? I asked. Melissa? Dad? Your own insecurity? He had no answer. And that was when I looked across the room and saw Vanessa again, arms folded, watching it all with the satisfaction of someone whose suspicions had just been confirmed. Guess you got your drama after all, I called out to her. She gave me a slow, ironic smile. I'll be posting this in my HOA newsletter, dear. Trust me. By the time I reached the double doors, half the guests were recording. Others whispered, some openly applauding. The music had tried to start again, but sputtered into static, like the speakers themselves didn't want to witness what was happening. I paused at the entrance, turned around one final time, and scanned the room. Melissa, veil gone, hair frizzed, tears barely held in place by whatever pride she had left. Ryan, arms limp at his sides, unsure whether to chase or collapse. Dad, motionless, guilt radiating off him like heat. Linda, wringing her hands in silence. Vanessa, already reporting to some relative on the phone. And I said, just loud enough to be heard, happy wedding, Ryan. I hope you find joy. And if not, well, you earned that too. Then I pushed open the doors and stepped into the cool October night. The city air wrapped around me, brisk and cleansing. The lights from the hotel still glowed behind me, but they no longer felt inviting. They looked artificial, like stage lighting after the curtain falls. I walked to my rental car in silence. My shoes clicked against the cobblestone driveway, like punctuation marks. Click, click, click. Every step away from that hotel felt like reclaiming something I hadn't realized I'd given up, myself. Back at my Airbnb, I set the espresso machine on the counter. I poured myself a glass of the red wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. Strange how revenge, when done right, could taste like freedom. My phone buzzed once, then twice, then 5 more times. Dad, what the hell did you just do? The whole family's talking about you. Melissa, you're a snake. Jealous. Vindictive. Linda, please come by tomorrow. Let's talk this out. It's not what it looks like. Ryan, you ruined my wedding, man. I never want to see you again. Dad again. You'll regret this. I placed the phone screen down on the table. I didn't regret it. Not even a little. The next morning I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Hey, it's me, Dad. His voice sounded tired, smaller than I'd ever heard it. I wanted to say I saw everything. I didn't say anything. I saw how we treated you. I saw it years ago, but I said nothing. I thought being silent was neutral, but it wasn't. It was betrayal. Still, I said nothing. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said, his voice cracking. But I need you to know I'm proud of you. Because you finally did what I never could. You spoke. Silence hung between us. Not empty, but full. I appreciate that, I said quietly. And I meant it. In the days that followed, Melissa went full PR mode on social media. Posted a photoshopped version of the reception, conveniently cropped. Claimed I had abandoned the family years ago and came to the wedding just to cause pain. But the comments section wasn't buying it. Screenshots of the hallway seating, clips from the confrontation, guests chiming in with phrases like, "Wait, he's the groom's brother?" And that seating arrangement was brutal. Ryan tried damage control, but it only made things worse. Vanessa posted a cryptic status. Sometimes the truth walks in holding a gift box and walks out with your entire reputation. I didn't reply to any of it. Not because I didn't care, but because I no longer needed to explain myself. I returned to Seattle. I went back to work, read, hiked, cooked my own meals, used that espresso machine every morning. And every now and then, I thought about that ballroom, about that table, about that folded name card that tried to shrink me. But it couldn't anymore, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten older brother. I wasn't the fallback or the footnote. I was the author of my own ending, and I wrote it beautifully. Story 2, from as far back as I can remember. I was the letdown, not through words, but glances, subtle gestures, quiet sighs. My name's Lauren. I'm 34 now, but this all started much earlier. My parents had been hoping for a boy, the firstborn to carry the family name. Instead, they got me. 3 years later, my sister, Rachel, was born, and she was everything I wasn't. Warm, charming, effortlessly adored. I became the responsible one, independent, the "you'll be fine on your own" daughter. Our home was suburban, average, nice enough. But emotionally, I always felt like an outsider looking in. Rachel would bat her lashes and instantly get what she wanted. Me? I learned not to ask. By high school, I stopped trying to impress them. "I'm majoring in finance," I said over dinner one night. My mother frowned slightly, as if I'd told her I was becoming a mechanic. "Are you sure? That's very technical. Maybe something more people-oriented?" My dad chimed in. "Teaching, maybe? I've already been accepted. Partial scholarship." That was the end of it. Rachel, still in high school, casually announced she might study psychology. The room lit up. "You're so good with people," Mom beamed. I just pushed vegetables around my plate, tuning them out. College was my escape. That's where I met Adam. We literally collided in the library. I dropped a thick statistics book. He picked it up. "You're in Professor Reed's macroeconomics class, right?" he asked. I nodded. He smiled. "You're the one who asks all the smart questions." He wasn't mocking me. He was sincere. Coffee turned into dinner, into movie nights, into weekends that flew by. For the first time, I felt seen, really seen. He liked me without qualifications. Adam graduated before me and landed a consulting job downtown. He waited while I finished my degree. And once I graduated, we moved into a small apartment together. Cozy, a little rough around the edges, but it was ours. Introducing him to my parents was surreal. Suddenly, I was interesting again. "So, Adam, tell us about your job," my dad asked eagerly, slapping him on the back. My mom actually squealed. "Will you join us for the holidays?" Just like that, my fiancé was the son they never had. Rachel, still single and living at home, watched from the sidelines. I didn't gloat, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like a win. After a year, Adam proposed. We went with a small, intimate wedding. My parents complained, "Don't you want something more special?" But I stood firm. It was the perfect day. Naturally, the baby questions came fast and hard. "When can we expect some good news?" Mom would ask, eyebrows raised. "We want to get a house first," I'd repeat, over and over. They didn't understand, or didn't care. 2 years later, we bought a modest home, a fixer-upper, but full of potential. We celebrated quietly. And then Rachel dropped her bombshell. "I'm pregnant," she announced at dinner. Her boyfriend of 6 months, Derek, was already long gone. But instead of shame or concern, my parents transformed their house into a baby boutique. "Our first grandchild," they said, as if she were royalty. When little Mia was born, she was instantly the sun around which their lives revolved. Watching Adam play with Mia was complicated. He was amazing with her. Patient, goofy, gentle. "You're going to be a great dad someday," my mom would say with that pointed look in my direction. I smiled politely, but inside, I was starting to feel pressure build in my chest like a ticking clock. We started trying soon after. The vitamins, the tracking, the relax, don't stress about it advice that always made me feel worse. Month after month, nothing. Meanwhile, Adam kept going to my parents' house ostensibly to see Mia, but I noticed he spent more and more time chatting with Rachel, too. "She's getting good at cooking," he'd say. Her lasagna was actually amazing. Eventually, I saw a specialist. Adam came with me. We held hands as they did the exams. Then came the results. I was infertile. It didn't feel real. The doctor was kind. She explained options: IVF, surrogacy, adoption. I nodded, barely processing. I waited until the next family dinner to tell them. "I'm infertile," I said, staring into my water glass. Silence. Then my mom let out a bitter, ugly laugh. "What kind of woman can't do the one thing she was born to do?" My dad muttered, "Empty, like a dried-up plant." Rachel didn't say anything, just bounced Mia on her knee and smirked. I turned to Adam. He didn't say a word, just stared at his plate. I left in tears. After that night, I stopped going. But Adam kept visiting, kept bonding with Mia, kept talking about how bright she was, how funny, how she called him Uncle Ad. Every compliment felt like a paper cut. I wondered if he blamed me. I blamed myself. And then came the Tuesday I got home early. The house was dark. His car wasn't in the driveway. I called. No answer. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from Rachel's Instagram. I wasn't even following her. But the caption caught my eye. "Family time with my favorite people." The photo? Adam? On my parents' couch. Mia in his lap. Rachel leaning into him like they were already a couple. My stomach twisted. I drove to my parents' house, heart pounding. The front door was unlocked. I heard their voices from the living room. "You've been so good with Mia," my mother said. "You deserve a real family," my father added. "Rachel's young. You could still have kids with her." I couldn't breathe. Then I heard Rachel. "Why stay in a marriage with someone who can't give you what you want?" I stepped into the room. All eyes snapped to me. "What the hell is going on?" Adam looked at the floor. My mom crossed her arms. "We're just having an honest conversation. You're trying to convince my husband to leave me for my sister." "You can't give him children," Dad said. "She can." I turned to Adam, waiting for him to say something. Anything. He whispered, "I'm sorry, Lauren. They're right." Rachel slipped her hand into his. "You don't belong here anymore. This is your family now." That was it. I walked out without another word. I went home, packed a suitcase, left a note on the counter: "Contact my lawyer. I'll sign the divorce papers." The divorce was fast. We didn't fight over much. There wasn't anything left to fight for. Just 2 signatures, a couple of awkward emails between our lawyers, and that was that. He got the couch. I got the bookshelves. The apartment was in his name anyway, so I moved into a small rental across town. It was quiet, a little too quiet at first, the kind of quiet that sits heavy on your chest, but I got used to it. I buried myself in work, stayed late at the office, pretended I was too busy to feel anything. But then the photos started. Rachel posted one from their engagement shoot. She was in some overpriced white dress. Adam beside her like nothing ever happened. My parents were in the background, smiling like they'd won the lottery. No shame, no hesitation, just celebration. I didn't cry. Not this time. I felt something colder settle in. A year later, another post showed up. Welcome baby Lily Rachel had given birth. Again, Adam was in the picture, holding the newborn with that same smile he used to have when he looked at me. He adopted Mia, married Rachel, had another kid. I blocked them all, deleted every social media account I had. Not because I was trying to hide, but because I didn't want their faces anywhere near my peace. I couldn't control what they did, but I could control what I let into my world. And then one day life, in its weird little way, surprised me. It was a Saturday. I was at the grocery store, trying to find decent avocados. Why are they always either rock hard or mush? When I bumped carts with a guy in the produce aisle. He apologized first. Sorry, totally my fault. I wasn't looking. I looked up. Brown eyes, easy smile, warm energy. I'm Mike, he said, handing me the one avocado that was actually ripe. Guess one owe you a coffee for crashing into your cart. One coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into something real. Mike wasn't flashy. He didn't try too hard. He listened, asked questions, laughed at the right moments. He didn't treat me like I was broken. He didn't try to fix me. He just stayed. 6 months in, I told him everything. About Adam. About the infertility. About the way my family cut me out, like I was expired milk in the fridge. He didn't flinch. I'm not with you for kids, he said simply. I'm with you because I like who I am when I'm around you. If we want a family someday, we'll figure it out. Or maybe we won't. Either way, I'm not going anywhere. We got married at the courthouse with 2 friends and a bottle of champagne. No big dress, no speeches, no family. Just vows and a quiet dinner afterward. It was the happiest day of my life. A year passed. Peace became my new normal. Mike got a promotion. I started freelancing part-time, finally doing something I actually cared about. We were good. Until one morning, I threw up brushing my teeth. I thought it was the flu, but then it kept happening. The nausea, the dizziness, the weird cravings. I went to the doctor, more out of routine than hope. Congratulations, she said, smiling at the screen. You're about 10 weeks along. I blinked. Wait, what? No, that's not possible. I was diagnosed infertile. She nodded gently. Sometimes the body surprises us. It's rare, but it happens. Mike was speechless when I told him. Then he laughed, pulled me into a hug, and cried into my shoulder. We cried together, for everything we'd lost, and everything we were about to gain. 9 months later, I held our son Daniel for the first time. Tiny, healthy, loud, beautiful. He had my chin and Mike's eyes. And just like that, the part of me that had always felt empty didn't feel empty anymore. We kept to ourselves for a long time. Daniel was enough. Mike and I didn't need anyone else. But fate's got a sense of humor. One evening, we went out to celebrate Mike's birthday. Fancy place downtown. Candlelight, white tablecloths. Not usually our scene, but we wanted to treat ourselves. And that's when I saw her. Rachel, tucked into a booth in the back, her face way too close to a man who definitely wasn't Adam. She was giggling, brushing his arm, twirling her hair, and then she kissed him slow and sure, like this wasn't their first time. She didn't see me, but I saw everything. I pulled out my phone, took a few photos, just enough. Nothing dramatic, just proof. Mike looked over. Is that? Yep, I said. That's my sister, with a man who isn't her husband. You gonna send those to Adam? I paused. It would have been easy. Just one message. Blow it all up. The same way they blew up my life. But I shook my head. No, I'm not giving them any more space in my head. I've already won. I saved the photos, just in case. But I didn't send them. I didn't have to. A year later, karma did the job for me. We didn't hear anything for a while. No updates, no drama. Just our life moving forward. Daniel was growing fast, talkative, curious, stubborn in all the best ways. He loved pancakes, hated socks, and was obsessed with toy trucks. One sunny afternoon, Mike and I took Daniel to visit a friend who lived in the neighborhood I used to call home. We usually avoided the area. But the weather was nice and Daniel wanted to go to the park. So we walked, and that's when we saw them. My parents, Rachel and Adam, right there in the grocery store parking lot, loading up their trunk. The moment their eyes landed on us, they froze. Rachel was the first to recover. She looked away, acting like she didn't know us. But Mom, she locked eyes with Daniel. She walked toward us slowly, mouth half open, staring at my son like he was some kind of ghost. "Who is this?" she asked, voice soft but shaky. I could have ignored them. I wanted to. But Daniel, being Daniel, looked up and proudly said, "I'm Daniel, the first three. That's my truck." I took a breath. "This is my son. My son, Daniel." Rachel laughed, sharp and mean. "Please. You can't have kids, remember? What agency did you get him from?" I met her eyes. Calm. Solid. "No agency. I gave birth to him 3 years ago." "That's not possible," Mom whispered. "The doctors were wrong," I said, still steady. "It happens. Rare, but real." My dad stepped closer, suddenly animated. "He's our grandson?" I stepped in front of Daniel without thinking. "No, he's my son, not yours. You made your choices." "But we're family," Mom said. "Like that alone should undo everything." "No," I replied. "You threw me out like I didn't matter. You chose Rachel. You chose Adam. You don't get to show up now, just because you see what you lost." Rachel's face turned red. "Oh, come on. So you popped out one kid. Big deal. I still won. I got your husband. I gave him 2 daughters. I have the life you couldn't give him." I smiled. "Speaking of giving him things, how's your marriage?" "What's that supposed to mean?" Adam cut in. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder, held it up to him. "Here's Rachel having dinner with a man who's definitely not you. He seems affectionate." The color drained from his face as he stared at the pictures. "What the hell, Rachel?" he asked, voice sharp. "It's just a friend," she mumbled. "Friends don't kiss in candlelight," I said calmly. Mom and Dad looked at the screen. Neither said a word. And right there, in that parking lot, it all came crashing down. Rachel and Adam started yelling. Accusations, denials, rage, a whole storm breaking loose. I took Daniel's hand. "Come on, buddy. Let's go play." We left them standing in the middle of their mess, just like they left me in mine, years ago. A few weeks later, the grapevine filled in the blanks. Adam had doubts after the photos. Got tested. Turns out, he was the one who was infertile all along, which meant little Lily, the daughter he thought was his, wasn't. He left Rachel, filed for divorce, refused to adopt Mia or claim Lily, said he was done being lied to. Rachel moved back in with my parents, her perfect life in pieces. They reached out, phone calls, emails, even came to our front door once. "Lauren, please," my mom said through the door. "We made a mistake. We want to know our grandson." I didn't open the door, just answered calmly, "You don't get to come back now. Actions have consequences." Mike stood beside me the whole time, quiet, supportive, steady. "Family isn't just blood," he said later, as we watched Daniel building a tower out of blocks. "It's who shows up, who stays, who chooses you." He was right. Looking at my life now, our small home filled with laughter and chaos, my husband, who never made me feel less than, and the little boy who made me believe in second chances, I felt full. I used to think family was something you're born into, but I've learned something else since then. Sometimes, family is something you build with people who love you, not for what you give them, but for who you are. I didn't get revenge the way they expected. No yelling, no big scenes, no public takedowns. I just lived. I moved on. And that, more than anything, was the justice they never saw coming. Because while they were busy trying to erase me, I was building something they could never touch. Love, peace, real family. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Story 3. From the time I could remember, I was the one who held everything together. I'm Natalie, oldest of 4, born into a family that always seemed to be teetering on the edge of chaos. While my parents, both hardworking and exhausted, juggled their blue-collar jobs, I juggled everything else. Changing diapers, helping with homework, cooking dinner when mom worked late. That was my normal. When my little sister, Kira, was born, I was 10, and something shifted. She wasn't just the baby, she became the baby, our golden child. While my younger brothers, Ethan and Jay, and I learned how to fend for ourselves, Kira got away with everything. She's just a kid, Dad would say, when she slammed her plate on the floor after refusing to eat. She was 5, and still doing that. No one batted an eye. I learned early that responsibility wasn't optional for me. I started working part-time the minute I turned 16. By 18, I was full-time at a diner, stashing away every spare penny for college. My college jar sat in my closet, its clink of coins and crinkle of bills a nightly reassurance that I was clawing my way towards something better. I eventually landed a job as a bookkeeper, and later, after grinding through community college at night, I got hired at a financial firm as a junior analyst. That felt like winning the lottery. Every late shift, every tearful night over a textbook, every missed party, it was worth it. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something. Meanwhile, back home, Kira, sleeping in, skipping school, bouncing between boyfriends, and still being shielded by mom and dad. Ethan and Jay moved out as soon as they could. I did too, renting a tiny apartment close to work. But I still sent money home. Groceries, baby clothes, medical bills when Kira got pregnant at 18 and the father bailed to Nevada. The moment mom called me, I knew what she was going to ask. Can you come by on weekends? Help out with the baby? I didn't even answer at first. Just stared at the phone, heart thudding with a mix of guilt and exhaustion. When I finally spoke, I said, I'll help where I can, financially. That's all. Of course, that wasn't enough. You used to be so helpful, Mom told me during one of our weekly guilt calls. I was a child, I replied. Now I'm an adult, and I have a life. That didn't go over well. Neither did the checks I kept sending, though they were big enough to pay for everything the baby needed, and then some. I became the villain, cold, ungrateful, distant, whatever. I got promoted to senior analyst and moved into a nicer place. Started dating again. Mostly half-hearted swipes on dating apps until I met Ryan. He was grounded, smart, emotionally aware, everything I didn't realize I needed. We hit it off instantly, bonding over our shared love of spreadsheets and sarcasm. 2 years in, he proposed over Thai takeout and an overpriced bottle of wine. No big public gesture, just us. And I said yes. Introducing him to my family was surreal. Everyone was on their best behavior. Even Kira. Her toddler, Milo, took to Ryan instantly, and he to him. Watching them play was weirdly sweet until I noticed Kira watching too, a little too intently. You're lucky, she said once, smiling in that way that made my skin crawl. Ryan's going to be such a great dad. I should have picked up on it then. But I didn't. After the wedding, life was good. I mean, we weren't millionaires, but we were stable, happy, focused. Ryan wanted kids, and I did too eventually. I just wanted us to wait until we had a house, real savings, a plan. Every time the topic came up, I pushed it back. One kid, when we're ready, I'd say. He agreed. Or at least, he said he did. But over time, I saw the way he looked at Milo. Heard the way he talked about family, and how Kira made it work despite everything. She has mom and dad, I'd argue. I want our kid to have more than that. He didn't get it, or didn't want to. Still, I trusted him, until I found that phone. It was tucked behind sweaters in our closet. A phone I didn't recognize. Not his work phone, not his personal one. It wasn't locked, which should have been a red flag in itself. The first message I saw was from Kira. Miss you already. Can't wait till Saturday when she's working again. There were hundreds. Pictures, emojis, comments about me, laughing at my schedule, mocking how I worked late. Then I found the message. Baby's definitely yours, doctor confirmed. 12 weeks. I don't remember the drive to my parents' house. I just remember walking in, shaking, with the phone in my hand. Milo was watching cartoons. Kira was lounging on the couch like she owned the place. I tossed the phone on the coffee table. What the hell is this? She barely blinked. Picked it up, scrolled, shrugged. I guess you know now. That's all you have to say? You're sleeping with my husband? She looked me in the eye. We're in love. These things happen. And now with a baby? You're pregnant? James wants to be a dad. You never wanted that. I looked to my parents, hoping for some shred of loyalty, some sense of right and wrong. Nothing. Tommy needs a father, Mom said quietly. And James loves being around him, Dad added. And you? I asked. You're okay with this? We just want what's best for everyone. No. No. I turned and walked out, filed for divorce the next day. Ryan didn't even try to deny it when I confronted him. You never wanted kids, he said. Not really. No, I said. I wanted them with someone I could trust. The papers were finalized within weeks. I moved out. Ethan and Jay helped. They didn't say much, but I didn't need them to. They were there, and that was enough. Kira and Ryan got married. My parents hosted the wedding. They called it a fresh start. They moved into a fixer-upper on the outskirts of town, had another baby, then another. My parents helped. Kira never worked. Ryan was constantly in and out of jobs. Meanwhile, I got promoted again, bought a condo with a view, took trips, started seeing someone new, Marcus, kind, steady, and nothing like Ryan. And then, one Tuesday night, I got the call. It was Ryan. Don't hang up, he said. I should have, but I didn't. Not yet. I don't know why I answered that call. Morbid curiosity, closure, maybe a tiny part of me just wanted to hear how badly it had all gone. Ryan's voice was rougher than I remembered, older, more tired but still unmistakably his. That calm, confident tone he always used when he thought he could manipulate a situation. Natalie, please, just listen. I didn't say a word, just waited. It's Kira. She had an accident. Compound fracture in her leg. Surgery went fine, but she can't move around much. And she's pregnant again. Of course she is. She can't take care of the kids. I'm working doubles. We're drowning, Nat. Milo's getting older, but he can't manage everything alone. We thought maybe you could help. I sat there, staring at the skyline outside my window, the lights of the city flickering like distant stars, thinking, is this guy serious? You want me to help? I asked, my voice flat. They're your family, he said, like that meant something. My laugh was short and sharp. The sister who slept with my husband and the husband who cheated on me? That family? Don't be like this, he snapped, the switch in tone immediate. This isn't about us. It's about the kids. They didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I replied calmly. But I got punished anyway, didn't I? He tried to guilt me, said they were broke, that the kids missed me, that it was selfish of me to turn my back on my own blood. Funny, I said. You didn't think I was family when you were sneaking around behind my back. You weren't concerned about the kids when you destroyed their aunt's marriage. But now, you want me to play nanny while you two play happy family on crutches? He started yelling. Said I had no idea how hard things were for them. That I was lucky. That I had money and no kids to worry about. That I could at least pretend to care. I hung up mid-rant and blocked him. Didn't think twice. Didn't need to. 2 days later, Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but habit got the better of me. That old reflex that says it's still your mother, Natalie, she said, her voice thin and worn. We need to talk about Kira. I'm not helping, I said immediately. She's struggling, and you have the resources. I had a sister. She burned that bridge, remember? You're still her sister, she insisted. You always used to say family came first. I let out a dry laugh. Yeah? Funny how that only matters when you need something from me. Silence. Then, A sigh. We've done what we can, but we're out of savings. Your father had to dip into his retirement just to cover rent for them this month, and food, and diapers. So the golden child finally got too expensive to support, I said flatly. Don't be cruel, Mom snapped. She's just never learned how to manage. Right, because you never made her, and now you're shocked she can't survive on her own? She has 3 kids, Natalie. She's doing her best. No, you are. She's sitting on your couch scrolling Instagram. You don't understand, she whispered. No, I do, I said. I've understood for years. You enabled her every step of the way. You never held her accountable for anything, and now you expect me to fix it. Again, she started crying. I stayed quiet. When she realized I wasn't going to fill the silence with sympathy, she finally said, You have a duty to your family. That was it. That was the breaking point. No, I said slowly. I had a duty. I fulfilled it. And now? I owe you nothing. I hung up. Blocked her too. It was like cutting off a limb I'd already lost feeling in. Later that night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my balcony, and watched the city hum beneath me. Cars moved like ants. People walking, laughing, living. Somewhere in that chaos, Ryan and Kira were struggling, drowning in diapers and rent and resentment. I didn't feel sorry for them, not one bit. I'd spent years sacrificing for a family that only loved me when I was useful. Now that I had peace, real peace, I wasn't going to give that up to play the martyr again. A few days passed, then Ethan called. Guess who tried hitting me up for money? Let me guess, I said, sipping my coffee. Starts with a K, ends with ruined her own life. Bingo. What'd you say? Told her, if she needed help, she should ask the husband she stole, or the parents who raised her to be helpless. I grinned. How'd she take it? Cried, then screamed, then hung up. That tracks. She also tried David yesterday. Same result. Glad to know we're all finally on the same page. Yeah, he said, voice quieting. Feels like we've come full circle, doesn't it? It did. But the drama wasn't over yet. 2 weeks later, David called with the news. They moved back in with Mom and Dad. All of them. Ryan, Kira, the kids. Another baby on the way. I winced. That's going to be something. Dad's converting the old garage into a bedroom. Mom's doing all the childcare. Ryan's out half the time looking for work, or working whatever that means. They'll burn out, I said. Fast. Oh, they already are. Mom came by my place yesterday begging me to talk to you. Let me guess. Wants me to bail them out? Yep. Says they're overwhelmed. Says it's not fair to expect them to raise all the kids alone. I let out a bitter laugh. Should have thought of that before they lit the match. Want me to block her number 2? Nah, I said. I got it. Sure enough, she showed up at my door the next day. I barely recognized her. She looked old, not just physically, emotionally, like someone who'd finally realized the damage she'd spent a lifetime ignoring. Natalie, she started. Please, I just need 5 minutes. No, I said. I gave you years. I gave you my childhood, my money, my trust, and you gave it all to her. She's your sister. She's your daughter. You raised her. You chose her again and again. So now you live with that. She tried again, hands clasped like I was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. Please, the kids are not my responsibility, I said firmly. You made this mess. Don't come looking for me with a broom. I don't know what to do anymore. Then you finally know how I felt all those years. I closed the door before she could respond, locked it, and this time, I didn't cry. That night, Marcus came over for dinner. We sat on the couch, plates in our laps, the city glowing behind us. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, he took my hand. You know, he said, family's not who shares your blood. It's who shows up. I nodded. He was right. My brothers showed up. Marcus showed up. And me? I showed up for myself for once. The chaos back at my parents' place? That was their problem now. Mine was peace, and I was keeping it. Time passed. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like the tick of a wall clock in a quiet room. That kind of silence was new to me, but I'd learned to love it. 4 years had gone by since I cut ties with Kira, Ryan, and my parents. And for the first time in my life, I could breathe without the weight of someone else's mess on my back. My condo sat high enough to see the whole city. Every sunrise painted my walls gold. Every night I lit a candle, poured a glass of something nice, and reminded myself, you built this. No one gave it to you. Ethan and David came by often. We'd cook, laugh, talk about work or sports or whatever nonsense Ethan had seen on Reddit that week. Sometimes they'd bring their partners. David's wife, Michelle, always brought dessert. Ethan's boyfriend, Aaron, always brought wine. They were my real family now. Not the ones who shared my blood, but the ones who showed up and stayed. Life was simple, clean, uncomplicated. Then one evening I got a message. Not from Ryan, not from my mom. From Milo. He'd gotten older, 10 now, almost 11. Smart kid. Looks too much like Ryan, which hurts. But he's got something softer in his eyes. Something I used to have. The message was short. Hi, Aunt Nat. Can I call you sometime? I miss you. I stared at the screen for a long time. I hadn't spoken to him since he was 5, since the day I found out the truth and walked away from the life I thought I was building. I typed and deleted a dozen replies, then finally settled on, of course, Milo, anytime. He called that weekend. I was nervous, more than I expected. Hi, he said, voice cracking a little like he wasn't used to saying it out loud. Hi, bud. How are you? He hesitated. It's crazy here. Mom's always tired. Ryan, my dad, he yells a lot. And Grandma cries in the bathroom. I hear her sometimes. I swallowed hard. That's a lot to deal with, huh? Yeah. I just wanted to talk to someone who doesn't yell. We talked for an hour. He told me about school, how he liked math but hated gym, how his little sisters were always fighting over toys, how his parents didn't really talk much anymore. I remember when you used to come over, he said quietly. You made everything feel calm. I felt something twist inside me, that old ache, but it wasn't guilt this time. It was grief for the version of him that never got to grow up in peace. Milo, I said, keeping my voice steady. You're a good kid, and I'm always here if you need someone to talk to. But just so you know, I'm not part of that house anymore. I know, he whispered. I wish you were. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony again, city lights glowing beneath my bare feet. That conversation stirred something, but not regret. I didn't miss the chaos. I missed the quiet moments. The people who still deserved a shot at something better, like Milo. Still, I wasn't going back. That chapter was closed. The next week, Ethan told me Mom had tried calling him again. Same script, begging, crying. We're overwhelmed. We're falling apart. We need help. He didn't even let her finish this time. Help? He told her. You had help. You burned it. Live with it. David texted me a few days later, they're selling the house. Can't afford it anymore. I didn't respond, just turned off my phone and took a walk through the park with Marcus. Marcus had been steady, never asked me to fix anything, never tried to solve me, just stayed, held my hand when I needed it, knew when to listen and when to just be there. One evening, as we sat watching the sky turn pink over the city, he said, You ever think about kids? I didn't freeze up like I used to. I didn't feel trapped. Sometimes, I said, but not out of fear anymore. Not because someone else expects it, just if it's right. He smiled. I think you'd be a good mom. I laughed softly. Took me a while to learn what not to do. He reached over, laced his fingers with mine. That's how we break the cycle. Maybe he was right. I didn't owe anyone my peace. I earned it. Every hour I worked, every boundary I built, every goodbye I said to people who only knew how to take. Ryan and Kira, they got what they wanted. They built a life on betrayal and borrowed time. And now that it was crumbling, they had no one left to blame. My parents made their choices too. Loyalty to the wrong child, enabling over accountability. And now they were left holding the consequences in both hands, tired and empty. Me? I chose something else. I chose truth, boundaries, freedom, not revenge, not bitterness, just peace. Sometimes people ask me if I ever think about going back, if I'd forgive, rebuild. I always give the same answer: no, because some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some families aren't meant to be whole, and some wounds are only healed by walking away and not looking back. That weekend, my brothers came over for dinner. Marcus joined us. We cooked, laughed, opened a bottle of wine too nice for the occasion. At one point, David raised his glass. To the family we chose. We clinked glasses and I smiled. Not the fake kind. Not the one I used to wear to survive family dinners. A real one. The kind that comes when you finally realize you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You can just be. And that's enough.